no teleprompters, no written speeches, the opportunity to see what's in here, what's up here, and what's burning down here.
Believe it or not, Rick Santorum does not need to call a doctor. That was his explanation of why his candidacy is resonating with voters. But now Santorum is getting hit for remarks he made back in 2008 at a Catholic university in Florida, speaking about then candidate Barack Obama's position on abortion. Here's part of what Santorum had to say.
This is not a political war at all. This is not a cultural war at all. This is a spiritual war. And the father of lies has his sights on what you would think the father of lies, Satan, would have his sights on. A good, decent, powerful, influential country, the United States of America. If you were Satan, who would you attack in this day and age? There is no one else to go after other than the United States. And that's been the case for now almost 200 years, once Americans' preeminence was sown by our great founding fathers.
Last night, Santorum defended his comments, calling the entire matter a joke.
It's absurd. If a person, I'm a person of faith. I believe in good and evil. I think if somehow or another, because you're a person of faith and you believe in good and evil, is a disqualifier for president, we're going to have a very small pool of candidates who can run for president.
I'm joined by Bob Shrum, Democratic strategist and professor at NYU, and Dr. James Peterson, Director of Africana Studies and Associate Professor of English at Lehigh University. Gentlemen, let's see. We're talking contraception, we're talking faith, we're talking abortion. Bob, what's going on here? Why are they continually going down this road, and what about Santorum?
Well, Santorum reminds me of something Pope John XXIII said at the opening of the Vatican Council when he denounced the prophets of doom and gloom who see nothing but evil in modern life. He said, they burn with zeal. That's what Santorum just said about himself, but they lack common sense. He's wrong on the theology, and he's wrong on the politics. You can't turn America into a sort of special precinct of heaven under attack by Satan. This is a country, not a church. You can't confuse the secular with the sacred. Politically, if you want to measure the impact of this, all you have to do is listen to those conservative commentators who are going crazy today. They're as much or more against Santorum now as they were against Newt Gingrich. They think he's a deadweight loser. Right. Finally, the irony is, I think, Romney, to compete with Santorum, has taken many of the same positions, just without the white-hot rhetoric. And what he thinks will redeem him in a general election is that people think he's not telling the truth. In other words, the fact that he lies all the time becomes a defense mechanism for him.
Dr. Peterson, your take on Santorum's talk about Satan and putting it into current terms that he wouldn't back away from anything he says.
Right. Well, there's a couple of things there. One, doesn't he sound a lot like Reverend Wright in those comments, right? I mean, he's very consistent with that. Also, I think this is micro-partisanship, right? So he's got to speak to a very specific religious right, and that's where he gets trapped. Now, he can't back off of that because those are the folk who are voting for him. So until Newt Gingrich gets out of the race, he's got to keep pandering to the right in those very, very strong, very religious terms. Now, I would argue that, agree with Bob, but also argue that this is really problematic for American politics going forward because we don't want to have religion in our politics in this way.
The politics of it right now for Rick Santorum, when he won Missouri, Minnesota, and Colorado, leading up to that, he was talking about manufacturing.
That's right.
He was talking about jobs and the economy. He was talking about being the most conservative one of the bunch. But he has turned to the president's faith. He's turned to the socialist issues beyond. I mean, this is really what's starting to deep six him in the polls, or am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're right. And maybe he ought to have some speeches written out or use that teleprompter. Because when he gets out there and he just starts talking from inside what's burning and sort of lets that fire out, he moves the whole process to the right. He makes the Republican Party look extreme. He makes himself look absurd. He forces Romney to compete with him. And you know, Ed, this is all part of a pattern. These guys got elected in 2010 saying they were going to focus on jobs.
And that lane is closed to them now because the economy is improving, right? So that's not open for them to be able to make those kinds of attacks. And let's be clear here, the president doesn't support abortion. He supports a woman's right to choose. And so the political rhetoric here is more than white hot. It's actually ignorant.
Doctor, what about Franklin Graham's comments about President Obama and then going on another network the next day and clarifying what he really meant. What's going on here? I mean, we are questioning the faith of the President of the United States. Well, political motives there?
Absolutely. We're not questioning it, but those on the right have to. Again, certain lanes are closed down to them now. They don't have the economy lane. They can't really win against this president in certain areas that they think they want to, like Michigan, right, because of GM and because of what he's done with the car industry. So in those situations, the tactics become really, really dramatic. So you roll out a Graham to say the things that they can't say. But best believe that's coming from the right.
As disgruntled as Republicans are with Romney, he's starting to get some help from Santorum.
Oh, I think I think that's absolutely right. The Republican establishment is determined to nominate Romney. He's coming back a little bit in Michigan. He looks like he may win it. He is well ahead in Arizona. He may be behind in the national polls, but what they're hoping is he gets through Michigan, he gets through Arizona, they can nominate him because, frankly, they don't have anybody else to nominate.
Right. Very conservative voters in Michigan prefer Santorum over Romney by a wide margin, but former Senator Alan Simpson, a Romney surrogate, says that Rick Santorum is homophobic and believes social issues will lead to the defeat of not only Santorum but the GOP.
Here's a party that believes in government out of your life, the precious right of privacy, and the right to be left alone. How then can they be the hypocrisy of fiddling around in these social issues? We won't have a prayer.
What do you think, Bob?
I think he's a Republican in name only. They'd read him out of the party. Look, it's not just Santorum. You talked earlier on the show about what's happening in Virginia, forcing women to have transvaginal sonograms. You have a Republican Party in the House of Representatives that is crusading against birth control. I mean, that's the spectacle that's being given to the country.
Your thoughts on Simpson?
Senator Simpson is one of the smartest politicians I've ever had a chance to talk to. He actually is the real Republican here. It's just that they've moved so far to the right and become so drastic on their policies that they sound like, I don't know, something other than Republican.
Dr. James Peterson and Bob Shrum, great to have both of you with us tonight. Thanks so much.